Okay, so on this week's Raw, we had a lot of things happen. Tag teams now have names. A Divas tag match actually had tagging involved. And I know people have been waiting to figure out who attacked Caitlyn at Night of Champions. As it was a blonde hair woman, so it could have been Beth Phoenix. Who knows? So I'll discuss the Divas tag match first. Layla and Alicia Fox took on Beth Phoenix and Eve. Beth Phoenix got almost no offense in at the very end, then Eve came in and hit her finisher 1, 2, 3. Caitlyn came down to discuss the Night of Champions and her attacker, and then it was blonde. Eve then yelled at Beth Phoenix, because, you know, Eve's a face. She's not actually a heel in disguise. So that's it for the women's division. A lot of this week was spent dealing with tag teams. Okay? We had a 6-man tag match where it was Sheamus, Sin Cara, and Rey Mysterio versus Otunga, Del Rio, and Ricardo Rodriguez. Of course, you know, the pinfall on Ricardo. You know, all not a bad match. My first thought was I want to see Ricardo team with Santino Marella and Zack Ryder. I think you would have probably one of the coolest gimmick joke stables ever. Throwing that out there. The team of Zack Ryder and Santino Marella took on the Primetime Players, where they got annihilated. Titus O'Neil hit his big high elevation powerbomb style move, similar to what one of D'Lo Brown's finishers. And I think when he hit it, he forgot to go for the pin, because, you know, big, you know, sky high slams him down. Normally then you can just, you know, go for the pin. Instead he went for this weird kind of like body float over pin. But, you know, they're taking over the tag division. Okay. Not bad. Kofi Kingston took on Dolph Ziggler in a fantastic back and forth match, with Ziggler getting the pinfall off the zigzag. Great match. Really solid job there. Lord Tensai took on Brodus Clay. So if you'd like to see big dudes with tats, by all means, this was the match for you. And then Show came down towards the end. So again, if you still like big dudes in tats, and it was Nighty Night Tensai, and then Brodus decided to charge him, and that went Brodus. Okay. That seemed kind of odd. They did quite a few segments where it was Kane and Daniel Bryan in a diner. No Pulp Fiction references, sorry. They referenced when Harry met Sally, when they were describing hitting people with chairs. Yes, the bizarre orgasm scene. They had them eat each other's food, which then led to Kane having a very large burp and Daniel Bryan throwing up onto the doctor's lap. Even though if you wouldn't have known he was throwing up, the sound effect and the head location would have made you think they were all of a sudden not going PG-13. And they got a tag team name. Their team is Team Hell No. I'm assuming they'll just shorten it to Hell No as opposed to throwing the word team in front of it. And then they got attacked by Damian Sandow and Cody Rhodes. Team Rhodes Scholars. Brilliant name. So tag teams are really starting to, you know, see lots of stuff going on. Still no Usos, but I mean, you know, not bad. Wade Barrett continued his destruction of enhancement talent, this time taking on Tyson Kidd. You know, not a bad match. It set the tone pretty well. So most of the matches were actually pretty solid matches, you know. They all seem to have at least something going on with them, exception of the Divas debacle, but, you know. So then what was the big overall crux? Oh, and Jerry the King Lawler also did an interview as well. He does sound pretty rough from having the ventilator tube down his throat. Looking forward to seeing Weedus come back. You know, I haven't mentioned that a lot, but you know, other people have mentioned it heavily in their videos. So, you know, I do wish Jerry all the best. The saddest thing is, having met him before, super nice guy to meet in person. You know, all the best. Have a, I don't want to say a speedy recovery because of that 3 hours, have a good recovery, and then when you come back, hopefully everything's behind you, and you can still wrestle I think he wrestles 100 times. So he wrestles 2 times a week beyond doing a 3-hour Raw. So take the time that you need. When doctors clear you, come back here. So the subject of people being out due to doctors. The show began with CM Punk and Paul Heyman. Paul Heyman talking about what happened last week and how CM Punk got screwed. They then berate the ref, which then brings out AJ. AJ then does the most powerful move ever. She slaps Paul Heyman. The slap from a woman seems to knock every man down. There is actually a theory that they hit a nerve on the jaw, which sends a signal through the spinal column right to the testes, and therefore essentially entirely debilitating a man in one motion. It's kind of like a taser shot. So that then led to CM Punk talking about how he's not being respected, which had these special guest stars showing up. Mick Foley. The Mick CM Punk promo was beautiful. When Mick was talking about, do I be a statistic or a legend? Mick Foley's Hell in a Cell might have shortened his career by like 5 years, but it is an absolutely defining moment in his career. Good job. I took it away from that whole, I deserve respect from the champion to, do you want to have that or do you want to have that legendary status? Those two guys had a beautiful back and forth. And then they end it with John Cena. Cena coming down in the Susan G. Colbin costume, while holding like a handful of puppies and making a wish in the ring for some, poor child. And, he could do all that and he would still get booed. It's just who he is. We all know John is the ultimate Boy Scout. Well aware of this. Like I said in the past, it's society that treasures Wolverine and Batman, and he's old school Superman. People like him, he's great and all, but he is vanilla as vanilla can get. And trust me, I'm a huge fan of vanilla. But in the ring, I want someone who's different. And John, he's just not that guy. He used to be, but he's not. So of course John cut in passion promos about, this, that, and the other thing, and the injury, and CM Punk should face me in Hell in a Cell. I don't want to come back, but I will go into the ring in Hell in a Cell and I will fight. CM Punk did the typical heel thing because, he is a heel. He is a heel. He is a heel. On the way to the ring, he stares at a ginger, probably checking to see if he can find a soul. And then he goes to shake his hand. He puts his hand out and slowly pulls it back as the kid reaches farther and farther. Old school heel tactics. Beyond coming out and saying your local sports team sucks, he's pushing everything he can to be a heel. He really is. Refusing to have matches, calling legends has-beens. He's doing whatever he can to push the idea that he is the heel and you should boo him in this match, as opposed to cheer him because you hate John Cena. He gives John Cena the count of 5 to get out of the ring. Turns his back to him. John Cena then pulls a pipe out of his pants. It's a lead pipe, even though he taps it against his head several times. He then hits CM Punk with a lead pipe in the stomach, because we can't do headshots now. So then CM Punk, as he's scampering down the back, attacks Mick Foley. Okay. And then as he's walking away, he looks back, and there's Ryback. So Ryback gives him a stare down at the end. This puts Ryback in kind of a bizarre location, because Ryback earlier took on The Miz and beat him. Solid match. Really solid match. It almost seems like he's next in line for the IC title shot. But then as he's staring down CM Punk, it's like, interesting. He's not quite ready for, the main title picture yet, but interesting to see, someone beats up Mick Foley, old and defenseless. And then there's, the vanilla gorilla, Ryback, staring down CM Punk. Different way to end the show. All in all, another pretty solid episode of Raw. I'm still trying to figure out, we watch it, with tape delay so we can skip through commercials and all that, but out of these 3 hours, it still feels like we're only really getting 2 hours of wrestling and then other vignettes. While the vignettes of Kane and Daniel Bryan are really good, I'd almost like one less vignette and one more match.